prefers to keep Austin's word to the people.
Yeah. Everybody agrees.
Everybody agrees, and that's really too bad. So that means I'm in the position of playing devil's advocate here, since there's just no dissent.
Actually, can I get 15 seconds for just a rebuttal?
Sure.
Okay, just two things. The City Council writes the ballot language. They screwed us. They always do this when it's a citizen initiative drive to try to kill it. It's not going to hurt anybody or anything. Don't worry about it. Secondly, it's very interesting that Amy Brown, as the chair of the Travis County Dems, who endorses Prop 2, is actually arguing against it.
Andy, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I don't think I was arguing against it, other than saying that there are, to make this, I guess, a little bit more interesting, there is a differing opinion on it. And as a party, and if that's what I'm representing, then yes, we support it. But I think that the Chronicle had an interesting point about the wording.
Okay, well, I want to follow up with all of you. You'll each get another 30 seconds to respond. We'll again start with Wes. A couple of things. What about keeping Austin's word and the city government signing a contract and then breaking it? And also, our friend from the Green Party mentioned tax increment financing, which I believe means that they can continue to do the very same thing with property taxes instead of sales tax rebates. And so I wonder whether this proposition will even make a difference at all if it's passed. Wes?
Well, lots of times after propositions pass, the City Council does find ways to get around it. But we need to send a very strong message that we don't think the City Council should be making these kind of deals. I don't remember your question, actually.
Well, the first one was
about keeping the word.
What about keeping the contract? And then secondly, about the tax increment financing as an end run around this proposition anyway.
Well, there's been lots published about how the Domain Mall and Endeavor Real Estate lied in the numbers that they presented to the City Council. So they weren't being honest with us, so we should not stick by some deal that was dishonest to start with. I'm against more tax increment financing districts, by the way.
Don Zimmerman, can you address?
Yeah, well, I talked to Brian Rogers personally about this, and he assured me that part of the lawsuit, he filed a lawsuit, remember, against the city, and part of the settlement of that lawsuit is the court agreed that the developer had no legal grounds to come after that money. I mean, it's just an outrageous falsehood for them to say that we could be sued for not keeping the politician's word. You know, we owe the developer nothing. The court says we don't have to pay him anything, and the court says that Austin and the taxpayers cannot be sued. So no penalties. It's just an outrageous claim that they're making.
I'd like to follow up with Andy Brown too about what you mentioned, the possible effects this could have at the old Mueller Airport and development there. Do you think that there's a reasonable argument that perhaps this is acts where we need a scalpel in terms of restricting the power of the City Council?
Yeah, and for Debbie's benefit, I'm going to turn this around for a second. I'm just Andy Brown here answering that part of it. But yeah, no, I think, honestly, I don't know. I think both sides are making claims that I have not sat down and independently verified, but it does seem like there is an argument that this might affect the Miller development that I think has done a lot of good in Austin.
All right, for our next question, yeah, you had your follow-up. For our next question, we'll start with Don Zimmerman. The question is about recent controversy, mostly earlier this year, about the Travis County Sheriff's Department allowing federal immigration authorities into the shared Travis County, City of Austin jail and rounding up illegal immigrants and running off with them. Do you or your party have an official position on this issue?
Great question. I don't know if the Travis GOP has done anything with this yet. Most of the people that I know of support the feds being in there, but there is some discussion about whether it's appropriate to have this, I guess to have the federal government in the county government, office. So I'm not real clear on this. I think there's kind of a consensus that if the feds would pick up, illegal aliens that were guilty of, drunken driving, whatever, and if they would pick them up and ship them back across the border or send them to wherever they came from. They come from, I don't know, 60 or 70 countries now. It's not just south of the border. They come from all over the world. So I think if the feds would do their job and export people that have violated the law and that need to be sent away, I wish they would do it. But Raymond Frank, I talked to him about this briefly, and he wanted to kick the feds out of the office because he says they're not doing their job. So I should concede my minutes on that because my understanding of that topic is kind of limited.
Debbie Russell, Naderite.
Yes, I'm a Naderite on this. I have been on this issue for a long time as my local role, from my local role that many of you know me by with the ACLU, but I don't represent Nader from that aspect, just no. The sheriff and ICE in the jail. The sheriff is essentially doing nothing new. What happened was ICE has increased their presence in the jail tenfold, 40-fold, I think. And what happened was that essentially Sheriff Hamilton just didn't stop it. He just simply wasn't aware of the means he had at his disposal to curb that intrusion. What it does do is it infringes upon his day-to-day operations in the jail to run an efficient jail. He has people in there roaming freely, interfering with the processes that the sheriff has set up. And he didn't know until we brought to him the federal laws and the federal the federal means he had at his disposal to be able to curb that activity. So it's actually our job from the grassroots to educate him and to continue to educate him that he has certain means in which he can curb that presence in the jail, because what it does is it decreases public safety to break that trust between the immigrant community, between the undocumented community, and law enforcement.
Andy?
I'm going to go with Debbie on this one. I don't know enough about it, but sounds like Debbie's worked through it and is working with the sheriff on this issue, and I think we'd probably take a similar position.
And Erica from the Constitution Party?
I don't really know a whole lot about this issue. I do know the Constitution Party is known for being very strong on border enforcement and wanting the federal government to secure our borders. But as a citizen, I am very leery of having the federal government coming in and controlling what the local law enforcement does. But again, I don't know that much about this issue, but I would not really be in favor of the federal government overstepping our sheriff or our local government.
And Bill Russell from the Green Party?
Bill Holloway.
Oh, Bill Holloway, I'm sorry.
Can we get married?
I'm mixing up names here, folks.
Yeah, I want to echo the sentiments of Debbie Russell and also some of the comments by the Constitution Party. We don't want federal government coming in here and trumping on our local authority to operate our sheriff's office the way that we see fit here in the local community. The Green Party is opposed to having ICE enforcement in the Immigration and Custom Enforcement, now the Division of the Homeland Security Department, in our the county jail. This has generated a lot of fear in the Hispanic community. People not even wanting to step forward to support their relatives because of the presence of this enforcement. The Green Party supports streamlining the documentation process and taking a look at the root causes of why there is so much undocumented illegal immigration into the country. Our trade policies and our economic policies, and also people who are willing to hire undocumented workers, we need to address that issue as well.
Wes Benedict?
I think Republicans and Democrats, politicians in both parties, have been working on trying to scare us to death with both immigration and terrorism. They're trying to distract us with those issues that to me are not that important. Meanwhile, they're handing out $700 billion subsidies to these big banks and to rich, wealthy investors who squandered our tax money. So now I will say that the Libertarian Party used to be for very free and open immigration and open borders, something that I still personally support. unfortunately, I'm disappointed with my own party. I think they've fallen into that. Immigrants, the Mexicans are coming together. They're stealing our jobs. The terrorists are behind every tree.